The family-friendly restaurant hummed with chatter as a young girl in a light gray sweatshirt played at a table with her mother. The attentive waitress, noticing the child's pigtails and curious demeanor, felt a sudden, inexplicable concern. As she took their order, she saw the girl make a brief, unusual hand sign. Intrigued and alert, the waitress couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Her heart raced as she recalled the hand sign, prompting her to make a critical decision. The waitress observed the girl's demeanor and the pigtails with orange bows as she approached to take their order. The mother was saying something to the little girl, who seemed engrossed in her own world. The light gray sweatshirt was bright against the backdrop of the restaurant. The waitress gave a friendly smile as she approached, but her eyes never left the little girl's hands, searching for any repeat of that strange sign. The mother and daughter seemed engaged in a pleasant conversation, while the girl focused intently on a toy or food item. The mother's voice carried gently, but didn't distract the girl from her task. The waitress noticed the toy had a colorful pattern, which matched the child's sweatshirt prints. The interaction seemed typical at first glance, but the waitress felt a slight tension in the air, something she couldn't quite place. Despite the seemingly normal scene, the waitress couldn't shake off an inexplicable sense of alertness. The image of the child's hand sign replayed in her mind, and no matter how hard she tried, the feeling of unease stayed. She glanced at the surrounding tables filled with lively families and laughter. Yet, her instincts told her to stay vigilant. She made a mental note to keep an eye on the mother and daughter, just in case. As she took their order, the waitress subtly observed the pair, feeling an unusual dynamic that made her uneasy. "What can I get you today?" she asked, her tone warm but her mind alert. The mother ordered a sandwich. The little girl wanted fries. The waitress watched as the mother handed the menu back, catching a fleeting moment where the girl glanced at her with a look that seemed to plead silently. The waitress returned to the counter, still unsettled by the strange feeling that something was off. She placed the order slip by the kitchen and leaned against the counter, her eyes drifting back to the table. She tried to shake it off. Maybe it was just overactive imagination. Yet the image of the hand sign loomed over her thoughts like a fog she couldn't disperse. "Snap out of it," she muttered. She glanced around the bustling restaurant, seeing families and groups enjoying their meals. Kids laughed and played games on tablets. Parents chatted animatedly. It was a typical day, full of the usual noise and chaos. Still, she couldn't relax. Her gaze kept wandering back to the table with the mother and daughter, comparing the normality around her with the disquieting scene that had drawn her attention a little earlier. She noticed the little girl occasionally looking around, studying her surroundings with keen interest. Unlike the other children, engrossed in their games or meals, this one seemed alert and aware. The girl would focus on something and then glance back at her mother, as if checking for approval or reassurance. The waitress felt a pang of concern, but also a determination to understand whatever was wrong here. The girl's mother spoke softly to her, but there was an underlying tension in her voice that the waitress detected. It was subtle, a slight edge that contrasted the casual words. Each sentence from the mother seemed measured, like she was trying to maintain a facade. The waitress leaned against the counter, wiping an already clean spot with exaggerated care as she eavesdropped for more clues. The waitress completed another table's order, yet kept a watchful eye on the mother and daughter. She delivered the drinks to a group of teenagers who immediately dived into their sodas and fries. All the while, her mind stayed on the peculiar pair. "All okay with you?" She made sure to ask a co-worker before grabbing a tray. The co-worker nodded, and she found herself glancing back at the little girl again. She remembered the brief hand sign the girl made when her mother wasn't looking. which added to her unease. The tiny fingers formed a shape that seemed familiar, but she couldn't put her finger on it. Her heartbeat quickened as the realization dawned that this might be more serious than she originally thought. The waitress knew she couldn't let it go, and kept it in her mind as she attended to other tables. The girl's mother excused herself to use the restroom, leaving the little girl alone at the table momentarily. The waitress watched as the mother got up, scanning the room with a casual glance before stepping away. It was a fleeting moment, but it presented an opportunity. Her instincts told her that she needed to act quickly before the mother returned. She made her way discreetly towards the table. Seeing her chance, the waitress approached the girl with a smile and leaned in to ask if everything was okay. "Hi there, sweetheart. Is everything going all right?" she whispered, trying not to startle the child. The girl looked up, her light-colored eyes meeting the waitress's, a fleeting moment of apparent relief. The waitress knew this was her moment to figure out if her concerns were valid. The girl hesitated, but then made the hand sign again, this time more clearly, causing the waitress's heart to race. It was undeniable now. This was a cry for help. The girl's tiny fingers moved deliberately, forming the sign without any ambiguity. The waitress felt a rush of emotion, knowing she needed to take action. And fast. She offered a reassuring smile to the girl, hoping to ease her apparent distress. Recognizing the sign, the waitress knew she had to act without alarming anyone. She took a deep breath and maintained her composure. "Don't worry, honey. I'm here to help," she whispered to the girl. The urgency of the situation intensified, and she felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She knew she had to move quickly but quietly, ensuring no one, especially the girl's mother, noticed her intentions. After a brief conversation to assure the girl that help was on its way, the waitress returned to her duties. She wanted the child to feel safe and supported, even in the tense moment. With a final, soothing word, she stepped away, her mind racing with the next steps. Balancing her work with the urgent need for discreet action, she moved back to serving other tables, keeping one eye on the girl. The mother returned from the restroom, scanning the room with a scrutinizing look. The waitress tried not to appear suspicious, continuing her tasks as though nothing was out of the ordinary. The mother's eyes swept over the restaurant, eventually settling back on her daughter, who was now quietly sipping her drink. A tight smile appeared on the mother's face, suggesting she was satisfied with the scene before her. The waitress tried to maintain her composure and busied herself with other tables. She took extra care to avoid looking towards the mother and daughter, not wanting to arouse any suspicion. Every minute felt like an hour as she continued her work, her mind racing with plans. She had to find a way to alert someone without causing a scene. The normal hustle of the restaurant offered a small comfort. She discreetly made her way to the back to inform the manager about the situation. "I need to talk to you in private," she whispered urgently. Her manager, initially taken aback, led her to a quiet corner. "The little girl at table 5, she began, her voice low but resolute. "She's made a sign asking for help. We need to do something." The gravity of her words was evident. Initially skeptical, the manager listened as the waitress described the hand sign and her concerns. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, looking over at the table. The waitress nodded, her expression serious. The manager weighed the situation, understanding the potential risk. "All right, we'll call the police, but keep it low-key," he instructed. He reached for the phone, knowing they had to act swiftly but cautiously. The situation's gravity couldn't be ignored, so the waitress and manager decided it was serious enough to call the police. They used the phone in the back office, making sure not to draw attention. "We have a potential emergency at our location," the manager said, keeping his voice low. A little girl might be in danger. They hung up, both knowing they had to act without causing a scene. Meanwhile, the girl's behavior grew more anxious upon seeing her mother return. She fidgeted with her toy, stealing quick glances at her mom. Her light-colored eyes darted nervously around, like a small animal sensing danger. The mother noticed the girl's anxiety, but continued to sip her drink, seemingly unaware of the underlying tension. It was clear that the little girl was becoming more unsettled by the second. Two police officers arrived quietly, blending into the restaurant's usual hustle and bustle. They didn't use sirens or flashing lights, understanding the need for discretion. Dressed in plain clothes, they walked to the front counter casually, barely catching anyone's attention. Their calm demeanor made it seem like they were just another pair of customers. The waitress and manager exchanged quick nods, signaling that help had arrived. The waitress and manager pulled the officers aside to brief them on the situation discreetly. "It's the table over there," the waitress indicated, her voice barely above a whisper. The little girl made a sign for help. The manager added, "We've been keeping an eye on them. We didn't want to cause a panic." The officers listened intently, understanding the delicate nature of the situation. One officer took a position near the entrance, while the other approached the table. They exchanged a brief look, a silent agreement on the urgency and subtlety needed. The officer near the door was ready to intercept anyone who tried to leave, keeping a close eye on the entrance while blending in with the other patrons. His partner moved in closer, yet discreetly, to make initial contact. As an excuse, he mentioned complaints about a lost item and began to confirm their details. "Good evening, folks. We're doing routine checks due to some lost property reports," he said casually. The mother looked startled, but managed a faint smile. "Oh, really? What kind of item?" she asked, her voice tighter than before. The officer glanced at the little girl, searching for signs without making it obvious. The mother became visibly nervous, while the girl kept glancing at the officer with a mix of hope and fear. The mother's hands tightened around her glass, her knuckles turning white. Her eyes darted to the little girl, silently urging her to stay quiet. The girl's eyes, however, reflected a flicker of hope, suggesting that she understood the officer might help. It was a tense, silent standoff. The officer subtly observed their reactions, trying to assess the situation without raising suspicion. He noticed the girl's hesitant glances and the mother's defensive posture. "Just need to confirm some details," he said, his tone light but firm. He kept the conversation casual, focusing on their responses. The mother's unease was palpable, and the tiny clues in their behavior painted a worrying picture. Seizing a moment while the mother was distracted, the officer began speaking to the girl. "Hey there, sweetheart. What's your name?" he asked gently, crouching to her eye level. The mother was too busy looking for an item in her bag to notice. The girl's light-colored eyes darted to her mother and back to the officer. She hesitated, then answered in a soft, clear voice. He asked simple questions about her day to gain her trust, noting her hesitant but polite responses. "Did you have fun today?" he inquired, trying to ease her nerves. The girl fidgeted but nodded, her eyes wary. Each answer she gave was measured, like she was choosing her words carefully. The officer took mental notes, knowing that building rapport was the key to understanding her silent pleas for help. The girl's body language, especially her frequent glances towards her mother, spoke volumes. Her eyes flickered back and forth, almost as if she was seeking approval or checking for some silent signal. Each glance seemed loaded with unspoken words, making her actions appear unusually cautious. The officers, noting this behavior, began to understand the gravity of the situation. It wasn't merely curiosity. It was clear she was on edge, alert to her mother's every move. The officer, trying to maintain his calm demeanor, decided to call for backup. He pretended to make a routine call on his radio, his voice steady and composed. "This is Unit 5 requesting additional support at the location," he said, his eyes never leaving the mother and daughter. He made it sound casual, but the urgency in his eyes was unmistakable to his colleagues, who understood the hidden meaning immediately. Shortly after, more officers arrived, artfully integrating themselves into the restaurant's layout. They positioned themselves strategically, one at the entrance, another near the back, and two at nearby tables, blending in seamlessly. Their presence didn't disrupt the restaurant's routine, but provided a sense of security that only they and the waitress could fully appreciate. They were poised and ready, creating an invisible net around the mother and daughter. The officers closely observed the mother and daughter, looking for any signs of distress or potential danger. They noted the mother's interaction with the child, her occasionally snapping tone, and that some of her gestures were more controlling than comforting. Each officer, although maintaining a facade of casual customers, kept a keen eye. They used their training to read the situation, piecing together small clues to form a bigger picture. The head officer reviewed their findings and formulated a plan. He needed to discreetly separate the mother and child for a brief conversation. He signaled to his team, outlining the strategy with quick, decisive gestures. The aim was to create a diversion that would allow an officer to engage the child alone, providing an opportunity for her to speak freely. They knew this would be a delicate maneuver requiring precise coordination. The waitress volunteered to create the diversion. She approached the mother, who was engrossed in keeping the girl close. "Excuse me, ma'am, there's a small issue with your bill. Could you come to the counter for a moment?" she asked, her voice calm and professional. The mother looked annoyed but got up to follow the waitress, allowing her daughter to remain at the table. This was the moment the officers had prepared for.
Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story.
With the mother temporarily distracted, the officer finally had the chance to ask the girl more direct questions about her situation. He crouched to her level and spoke softly. "Hey there, I just need to ask you a few things, okay? You're safe. Can you tell me about that hand sign you made?" The girl hesitated, glancing nervously in the direction her mother had gone. The officer gave her a reassuring smile, encouraging her to speak. The officer gently inquired about the hand sign she had made earlier. "It's important we understand what you were trying to say with that sign. Can you show me again and tell me what it means?" he asked, his tone soothing but urgent. The girl's tiny fingers fidgeted with her toy, but she eventually formed the sign again, her voice barely above a whisper, as she began to explain. The girl hesitated, but then revealed in a small, trembling voice that her mother was not her real mother. She took me from my home," the girl whispered, her light-colored eyes filled with fear and confusion. The officer's heart ached, but he maintained his composure. He needed all the details she could provide. "Do you remember where you were taken from?" he gently asked, leaning in to better hear her soft voice. The girl mentioned a place they were taken from, though her details were vague due to her young age. "It was a big house with lots of trees," she described, her face scrunching up as she tried to recall. "We had a dog. I miss him." The officer took mental notes, knowing these precious details might be key. "You're doing great," he reassured her, understanding the importance of each fragmented piece in her story. The officer comforted the girl, gently placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry, sweetie. We're going to help you find your real family," he promised. His voice was calm, but his eyes were determined. The girl clung to her toy, her tiny fingers gripping it tightly, finding solace in the officer's words. He nodded to his partner, knowing they had to act quickly to reunite her with her loved ones. Meanwhile, the mother began to grow increasingly agitated. She sensed something was amiss as she watched the officers moving around the restaurant. Her gaze narrowed, and she tapped her foot impatiently. "What's taking so long?" she muttered under her breath. The waitress, trying to keep the atmosphere calm, offered a strained smile. The mother's suspicion grew stronger with each passing moment, making it clear she felt the tension in the air. The staff and officers collaborated to keep the mother calm. The manager engaged her in conversation, distracting her from the unfolding investigation. "Ma'am, can I offer you something while we sort this out?" he asked politely. The waitress kept serving other tables, ensuring the restaurant maintained an air of normalcy. The officers, meanwhile, subtly gathered information, each doing their part to keep the mother from suspecting too much, while they delved deeper into the situation. Recognizing the need for privacy, the police decided to take the mother into a private area for questioning. "Ma'am, we have a few more questions for you. Would you mind stepping this way?" one officer requested, motioning towards a quieter corner. The mother hesitated but nodded reluctantly. They led her away from the dining area, ensuring the girl remained at the table under their watchful eyes. It was a critical move to uncover the truth. As they moved the mother, another officer stayed with the girl, ensuring she felt safe. Back in the secluded area, the mother's demeanor shifted from nervous to defensive. "What's this about?" she demanded, her voice taking on a sharper edge. The officers stayed calm, knowing her reaction was telling. Her shift in attitude only solidified their suspicions, and they prepared for a thorough interrogation to get to the bottom of the troubling situation. The mother's refusal to cooperate became apparent as she crossed her arms defensively. "I don't have to answer your questions," she asserted, her voice trembling slightly. The officers exchanged knowing glances, interpreting her behavior as a confirmation of their suspicions. "Ma'am, we need your cooperation to resolve this," one officer said firmly. Her resistance only reinforced the urgency of their mission. They knew they had to proceed carefully to uncover the truth. Back at the table, the little girl started to relax as the officer kept her company. Gradually, she began to open up, her guarded demeanor giving way to trust. "What else can you tell me about your home?" the officer asked gently. She spoke in fragmented sentences, but each word was a piece of the puzzle. The child's willingness to share her story was a small yet crucial breakthrough in their investigation. As the girl opened up, she provided small but crucial details that helped the officers piece together her narrative. "I remember a red door," she said, her tiny fingers tracing the table's texture. "And a nice lady who read me stories." The officer took notes, knowing these snippets were vital. Each detail added depth to their understanding of her story. "You're doing great," he reassured her, reinforcing her bravery and cooperation. The restaurant staff and customers began to notice the commotion, their curious glances drifting towards the unfolding scene. The officers, however, kept control over the situation, ensuring it remained contained. The manager whispered a brief explanation to concerned patrons, keeping them calm. The waitress continued her work, her focus split between her duties and the little girl. The restaurant buzzed with subdued tension, everyone aware that something significant was happening. Detectives arrived to handle the case, their presence adding a layer of intensity to the scene. They took detailed statements from the waitress, who recounted the girl's hand sign and the mother's behavior. "She seemed off, like she was hiding something," the waitress explained. The detectives nodded, noting every word. Their meticulous approach ensured that no detail was overlooked, as they prepared to delve deeper into the girl's mysterious and alarming situation. The detectives commended the waitress for her quick thinking and vigilance. "Your actions made a big difference today," one detective said, shaking her hand firmly. She felt a rush of relief, knowing her instincts had been right. The staff gathered around, offering supportive words and nods of appreciation. The restaurant resumed its usual rhythm, but everyone knew something significant had just transpired. The bond forged in those tense moments was unmistakable. The girl's information led to a series of calls and checks, confirming a missing persons report filed months ago. The detectives worked swiftly, piecing together the girl's fragmented memories and correlating them with the missing persons case. The details matched, providing a critical breakthrough. Every phone call and inquiry brought them closer to unraveling the mystery. The sense of urgency grew, underpinning every step they took. Hope replaced uncertainty as the puzzle pieces fit together. The mother, now in custody, refused to answer questions and demanded a lawyer. "I have rights," she spat, her demeanor icy and uncooperative. The officers noted her defiance, but remained professional. Each refusal only fueled their determination to uncover the truth. The interrogation room hummed with tension, contrasting the calm facade she tried to maintain. Her silence spoke volumes, setting the stage for a complex investigation. Legal proceedings loomed ahead, promising more twists in the case. As the evening progressed, the detectives gathered enough evidence to believe the girl had been abducted. "We need to act fast," one detective urged, spreading the documents and notes across the table. Each piece of evidence brought clarity to the murky situation. The girl's descriptions, coupled with witness statements, painted a distressing picture of her ordeal. Confidence replaced doubt among the team. "We've got what we need," concluded the lead detective, setting their plan into motion. They moved quickly to protect the girl and started the process of reuniting her with her real family. "We'll make sure you're safe," an officer assured her, gently leading her to a secure area. Social services arrived, providing a comforting presence. The girl, clutching her toy, sensed the change in atmosphere. The officers' determined expressions softened as they coordinated the next steps. The urgency to find her family underscored every action, each minute bringing hope for resolution. In the final chapter, the truth came to light about the hand sign the little girl made. It was a distress signal, one detective explained to the team, holding up a sketch of the sign. This revelation connected the dots, validating the waitress's concern. The girl's simple gesture spoke volumes about her dire situation. The restaurant staff, now fully aware, exchanged glances of understanding. The power of her small action resonated deeply within everyone involved. The sign was a recognized signal for distress, taught by some schools and child protection organizations. "We teach kids this in case they're ever in danger," a specialist explained during a briefing. The waitress listened, realizing the importance of her actions. The sign's recognition underscored the urgency behind the little girl's gestures. This knowledge empowered everyone, reinforcing the significance of awareness and training. The clarity of her message had been her lifeline to safety. The girl had been abducted from her home some months ago, and her situation was dire. The details of her ordeal emerged, painting a troubling picture. "She's been through a lot," an officer murmured, reviewing the case file. The girl's descriptions, although fragmented, held vivid memories of her abduction. As the story unfolded, the urgency to reunite her with her real family intensified. Her resilience in such a harrowing situation amazed everyone involved. Her real mother had been frantically searching for her, leaving flyers and making public appeals. "I've never given up hope," the mother said, in a tearful interview, her voice tinged with a mix of sorrow and determination. The missing persons report and public pleas reflected her unwavering efforts. The restaurant staff felt a shared sense of compassion, knowing their collective vigilance played a part in this unfolding reunion. The mother's perseverance inspired everyone involved. Thanks to the vigilant waitress, this ordeal was brought to an end. "You saved her life," the lead detective told the waitress, tears welling up in his eyes. The entire team and restaurant staff felt the weight of those words. The little girl's safety and the reunion with her real family underscored the impact of one person's timely actions. The waitress, though overwhelmed, felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her vigilance had made all the difference. The girl and her real family were joyfully reunited in a heartwarming scene. Her mother embraced her tightly, tears streaming down her face. The girl, initially hesitant, melted into her mother's arms. The officers and restaurant staff watched with smiles, relieved to witness the happy ending to the harrowing ordeal. The girl's small, clear hand signal had ultimately led to her safe return, sealing the moment with overwhelming joy for her family. The reunion highlighted the importance of vigilance and small acts that can make a big difference. The entire situation had hinged on the waitress's keen observation and quick thinking. Her decision to act on an unusual hand sign had set a chain of events in motion, leading to the girl's rescue. It underscored how being attentive and responsive in everyday life can have profound, life-changing consequences, reinforcing a communal sense of responsibility. The waitress's quick thinking had played a crucial role in bringing the girl back to safety. Her actions were the pivotal point that set everything in motion. "You were the key," one of the officers told her, shaking her hand firmly. Staff and patrons alike marveled at her decisiveness. Her intuition and courage to follow through with what she noticed turned out to be not only brave, but immensely impactful. The officers commended everyone involved for their cooperation and bravery. "We couldn't have done this without each of you," the lead officer announced, addressing the restaurant staff. Everyone felt a deep sense of pride and solidarity. The collective effort showed that when people come together for a cause, they can achieve remarkable outcomes. The officers' gratitude resonated deeply, making it clear that every small action counted towards the positive resolution. The story served as a reminder of the impact of community awareness and responsible actions. Everyone realized that being observant and acting on unusual signs can change lives. Cases like this highlighted how vital it is to stay aware and prepared to act. The sense of duty everyone felt during the ordeal translated into a renewed commitment to vigilance. Their collective experience became a powerful lesson about the strength of community involvement. The restaurant staff felt a collective sense of relief and pride for having contributed to the rescue. Conversations buzzed with reflections on how things had unfolded. "I can't believe it ended this way," one waiter commented, shaking his head in amazement. Each member understood that their quick actions had contributed to the girl's safe return. The camaraderie and unity experienced left a lasting impression, strengthening their bond as a team. The girl, now safe with her family, began the journey of healing from her ordeal. Supported by her mother and surrounded by love, she started to regain her sense of security. Therapists and caregivers were brought in to help her process her traumatic experience. Her family remained optimistic, grateful for the chance to rebuild their lives together. The community's support further bolstered their strength, marking the start of a new chapter. The community, moved by the story, became more aware of the importance of vigilance. People discussed the incident, realizing the power of small, observant actions. Local schools began teaching the hand sign as a safety protocol, ensuring more children knew how to signal for help. The waitress's actions became a talking point, praised as a model of bravery and quick thinking. The collective awareness ensured that the community was better prepared for any future incidents. The girl's real mother expressed her heartfelt gratitude to the waitress and the officers. "Thank you for giving me back my daughter," she said, her voice choked with emotion. The waitress, overwhelmed, simply nodded, tears welling up. The officers, too, received the mother's thanks, each one feeling the weight of their critical role in the rescue. Her words highlighted the profound impact their actions had and left everyone deeply moved. The story concluded with a message of hope, underscoring how everyone's awareness can make a difference. "It's a reminder that we're all in this together," the waitress reflected. The experience taught everyone that vigilance and quick, thoughtful actions could resonate far beyond their immediate circle. This incident brought to light the collective power of communities to protect and care for their most vulnerable members, creating a lasting sense of unity and hope.